Benvenuti o bentornati a un nuovo episodio del Punto di Vista. Come vedete qui c'è una formazione davvero importante quest'oggi, perché abbiamo tre ricercatori, insomma, che vengono da tutte le parti del mondo. Adesso magari ve le presentiamo. Quest'oggi faremo un excursus sul concetto dei reset. Andremo a trattare insieme all'amico David Wells, insieme all'amico Filippo Drusinin e Francesco Fiorucci, tutti i punti salienti di questa situazione, che molto spesso vengono nominati, vengono analizzati, ma molto probabilmente non vengono approfonditi nella maniera giusta. Noi oggi proveremo a partire dall'origine, avendo qui due persone che sicuramente hanno dato il via a tutto quello che è la ricerca sui reset. Quindi io manderei in sigla il canale e ci vediamo subito dopo. Here we are. Welcome back in a new episode of The Point of View. I'm so excited and so glad to have with me this special team today to talk about the hidden history, this super special moment where four in this case, researchers take their research and put all together to try to understand what really happened in the past with questo lo taglio ovviamente, with the problem of the resets. We listen a lot about this reset, but a lot of people don't know what really happened. And today we try to make some fixed point about it. I would like to introduce you my friend, my big friend, Mr. David Wells. Hello, Mr. David, how are you?
Hello, Sir Adrian. Hello, Sir Francesco. Sir Philippe, what an honor for me to be here and to be live with you. Thank you, Sir Adrian, to make this possible. I would like to say hello to everybody that is here, all of the viewers, and thank you again for Il Punto di Vista to give us the opportunity to be here all together and share the little we know and the little that we understand. What I was planning to do tonight, having the honor to be here with Sir Philippe, is to tell you a story, to narrate you a story how I live it from the beginning. I was basically there since the beginning when Sir Philippe started to smell this reset in 1800, and slowly I will show you step by step how we got where we are today. So I will show some images and we will discuss it together. So here we are.
Perfect. You are super welcome, Mr. David. And you are welcome too, Sir Philippe Drusini. Thank you to be with us. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Buongiorno, everyone. Nice to meet you, David. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for inviting.
You're super welcome. And another friend with us is the friend of my channel, Del Punto di Vista, that you know already, all of you, is Francesco Fiorucci. Welcome back, Francesco. How are you?
Thank you, Adrian. I'm well. Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure here to be with David and Philip. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, we can start this team.
Maybe you can cut. It's a pleasure to be here with Sir David and Sir Philip. I'm sorry.
Perfect. Here we are. It's a pleasure also for me because we are trying to explain what really happened in the past. No, a lot of people have this question: what is the reset? What really happened in all the part of the world? Almost all. Today we try to explain to you what is mudflood, where and what is giants. And a lot of things I have to say, but I would like to introduce you and Mr. David Wells to start, because for sure he know a little bit more than me. So please, David, you can start.
So again, good afternoon to everybody. Hello, here is afternoon. I don't know in Thailand, Sir Philippe, I imagine that is evening. So good evening. And basically, what I would like to do tonight, which is a great honor, is to tell you how the story of the reset got discovered, how it started, and most important, who was there, basically, pulling the cart and bringing, try to make sense to what we were seeing. This whole story started, I would say, around 2016, 2017, which is more or less when I met Sir Philippe. And if I can share the screen, I would like to show you straight some picture.
Sure.
Here we are. Share.
Okay.
We are live. Can you see me full screen?
Yes, perfect.
So the story basically goes like this. When I was in Rovaniemi in Lapland, in the north of Finland, on the Arctic Circle, for whatever reason, in my search in YouTube, they were all based on pyramids, ancient civilization. But for some reason, when I was on the Arctic Circle, very close to the border with Russia, all of the video that were presented by YouTube were Russian for whatever reason. So obviously, my research was based on pyramids and ancient civilization. So suddenly I started, a door opened in front of my eyes, and I start to see that the Russian were much, much further than us, basically on everything. Before starting to show you some picture, I was planning to show this one because I spoke in Il Punto di Vista about this bell with Sir Francesco and Sir Adrian. This is in Burma when we were talking about giants. This one is a 1870s picture from Burma. No idea who made that bell, for what reason, totally in the middle of the forest, very interesting. And these are the rock carving that I've been talking about in the north of Norway. As we can see, this rock carving, they depict mostly animal, but they show us human. As we can see, they have some, the reproductive organ, let's say, to show us there is a male. And in this case, we can see the same. They clearly put a third leg, let's say, to show there is a male figure. Here again, these are all the rock carving around the north of Norway. And then we have this one, plenty of them. Now, on the right, we can see the same human figure, small. But on the side, we have a monster, a giant with a suit on and horn. There is no doubt. Here we can see it again, other rock carving, the same thing. There is the human, small beside, and some giant with a suit and the horn. Here we can see it again. Clearly you can see the human and the horn on the big figure. This one, well, what is this? This is close to the city of Alta, between Tromsø and Alta. What were they trying to tell us, these people? These are other very confusing carving. And this one is what blew the mind of the channel Age of Disclosure. In those time, I came out with the presentation of this rock carving some 6 years ago. What are this figure? They have a bow in their hand. They have tails. You can see again a man on the left. Clearly, they want to show us that that one is a man. And these other beings with the tail obviously are not men, but they are using a bow, and we're going to see it more. Carving showing men using bow, there is no doubt. So who are or what are those beings? Good question. But these are the way how they get to the north of Norway. We have to keep in mind that it's the Arctic Sea, Northern Lake. Where are these boats coming from? The Viking, they tell us that were around 1100, And this carving, they are dated back much earlier. You can see the people on the boat. They have horn, there is no doubt. They have tail, all of them. And these boats are gigantic. This is another boat, massive, who was hanging in the north of Norway. Nobody really know. And this one is staggering. We can see clearly a human with a bow on a boat, and a giant, obviously, beside, look like long hair or something, and they have a very strange device in his hand. What are what are they representing? No idea. I really don't know. And now we can start the presentation. When I discovered this Russian channel in YouTube, when I was living on the Arctic Circle, they were showing, I couldn't understand a word of what they were saying, but they were showing something very peculiar, which are these lines. When I move after to Canada, I start to check around the Canada, which very remote area of the north of Canada, and this is what is going on. I don't have any idea of, at least in those time, I didn't have any idea what were these lines. There was nobody talking about it except this Russian channel. So I could only see these lines and I couldn't understand anything of what they were saying, but this is just staggering. This is still Canada, Alberta, north of Canada. It is staggering because the entire world is cut in slices, in pieces by these lines. This is all Canada, just unbelievable. This is the extension only in Alberta, in the province of Alberta. No, they call it seismic lines. Basically, they tell us that are seismic line made by hand in the last few decades. This one is the extension of what we are seeing, just to give you an idea of the scale. These are aerial images of Alberta. The idea that these are seismic line, very hard to believe because of the extension. This is how they are telling us that they are making it. It is basically impossible to believe it. Also because look on the side of these lines, and there are no tree stump. So what they brought it with them, where are the tree stump? So what I'm speculating here is that these lines were already there, and they took a couple of pictures with this bulldozer to tell us basically how they are making it. But no, I don't think that this is what is taking place here. Where these lines, this is a very interesting image. I met an expert on Native America in Canada. When I was in Canada, I showed these lines, and he told me that the Native Americans choose their stones where these lines join together, and I found it something very, very, very interesting and peculiar. As we can see here, they are even telling us that they are not using bulldozer anymore to do these lines, but they are making it by hand. And this switch over occurred in the 1990s. So the idea that by hand they did this, plus Sir Philippe in one of his videos was asking, find me a wood cutter that can go straight on swamp or hill. I mean, how do you do that by hand? So no sense. This is in Namibia, coming also from my video. I don't think that there's any comment. What are these things? No, they are not seismic line. No, they are not forest cut by hand or no bulldozer. This is the Namibia desert. How did they manage to go so straight? What's the purpose of these lines? No comment. This is Namibia again. Very little word I have for this. It's a disaster. Who made these lines? For what purpose? You should have in the desert two lines exactly following one another. Namibia, middle of nowhere, border with Botswana, absolutely no explanation. Namibia. This one in the center, more or less center of Africa, just under the Sahara Desert, where the Sahara Desert end. These are images from the New Earth Channel. What are those signs? Unbelievable. Then they come out with thousands of documentaries about the last line discovered in Nazca. So just to make you understand what a circus is this world, no? And no one info about this gigantic geoglyph, or how you want to call it. Look at this. This is how they are made. Who made them? No idea. This one, a sister send it to me. Is in the Arabic Peninsula. We can see this massive line just crossing canyon, hills. No explanation. This one, sister took it in the north of Quebec when she was flying down to Montreal. This is the forest of the north of Quebec, and we have this line that is just gigantic. These are in Australia, completely straight for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers. Australia again, and this is how they are used in our days. They basically are off-road for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers, completely straight, nothing grow on them. These were images from Siberia, from the video of Sir Philippe Druskinin, a very old video of Sir Philippe Druskinin. Same thing, no comment. This is actually kind of creepy, I would say, these images. Difficult to think that are seismic lines or that they are made by hand. The scale of this work is just unbelievable. And this was the first thing, let's say, of this Russian channel that I found truly without explanation. This is another snapshot that come from the video of Sir Philippe Druskinin. He was showing some roads in Latvia and around Russia. This road, for example, is completely straight. It's in Latvia. What I did, I took the car with Mira, which is my companion, and we went there to see this road personally. It is exactly like you see it on the map, completely straight. This one is in Lapland, same thing, crossing swamp, rivers, hills. The road completely straight. Same thing here, close to Rovaniemi, where I was living. We can see the road completely straight and plenty of forest cleaning that are appearing everywhere, basically. It's very low populated area of the Arctic Circle. These are images that I personally took of that road that I just show you. It is exactly like it's on the map, completely straight. What we can see on the side of the road is at least double or triple the size. So, and the poles, the light poles that we can see, the electric poles, they carry 2-3 cable. So there is no such need for this forest cleanup for this small road. So obviously this line was already here and was already there and has been reused with the purpose of making a road. This one is in Lapland, middle of nowhere. Just look at the scale of these lines. As you can see, they come out from bogs. I will talk about bogs in a moment. So I'm showing you that these lines are basically they pop up from underground, basically. This one, look on the left, still Lapland, middle of nowhere, around the Arctic Circle. Just who made all of those lines. These one are airborne laser scanning of Lapland, the north of Finland. You can see that the lines are printed in the ground. They are not forest cleaning like they are telling us, made with bulldozer or by hand. It's a complete joke. These are laser-borne scanning images, and as you can see, of Finland, and the lines are printed in the ground. This is again Finland, Lapland, airborne laser scanning images, and the lines are carved in the ground. Nobody can go straight on hills, and especially the quantity of swamp that we have here in Finland is the country in the world with more swamp related to its surface. So how did they make it? There is no logical explanation. This one are in Siberia, bulldozer, cut by hand, complete joke. This is in the middle of nowhere in Siberia. And this is the explanation that are giving us. Unfortunately, some clown have to come out and lie. And this is what they are telling us, that are iceberg scratching the bedrock, iceberg from the last ice age. In the world of Fantasylandia where they live, yeah, this is possible, and iceberg scratch the bedrock completely straight for thousands of kilometers, hundreds of kilometers. But in the real world, unfortunately, no, this is not what is taking place here. So the first thing that I've basically found out from this Russian channel was this mystery about the line, and so I opened my YouTube channel, and my first upload was a documentary based on those lines. But this Russian researcher, I repeat, I couldn't understand one word. They were really, really far compared to the rest of the world. And they were presenting things of this kind. This one is a personal photo that I took in Poland on the border with Belarus. And it's presenting as a building more or less a couple of 100 years of age. And as we can see, it is buried. There is no doubt that those windows were not built that way. And as we can turn around the building, it is clearly covered by meter and meter of mud. The explanation could be they raised the ground, for example, for pipe system or whatever. But this building, this particular building, it's in a park, and it's out of any town. There is no town around, so no pipe system can explain what we're seeing. This one is a wall that turn around this building that I just show you, and as you can see, the wall get to my knee. The level of that wall get to my knee. Obviously, something happened to this wall. It used to be a protective wall for the property, and it is completely buried. These are images from Latvia and Lithuania. The red bricks don't like to stay underground because of humidity. They get rotten very easily. We can see this process in this picture. We can see the lower window, they have been closed and they are rotting. So obviously nobody have built window underground. These were images from Siberia. No comment. Windows, sidewalk, doors, completely buried by mud. Building barely a couple of 100 years of age. And this was truly mind-blowing. This is the city of Kazan. Is one of the most famous picture of the mudflood. Sidewalk, door, window, no comment. These are other images just to make you understand what we are talking about when we're going to mention the mudflood. And now we're going to debate a bit on what we are seeing. These are other images just to give you an idea of what is taking place here. This one is a fortified wall of a city, turning around the city. Obviously, the arches are barely visible and the full protective wall is underground. This one are from Omsk. I found it in the video of Sir Philippe. His hometown of Sir Philippe, Omsk. Staggering. Nobody would bury those door and window purposely. No comment. This one are images. I think this one is from Canada, so we see that the same phenomenon is basically worldwide. These are the windows. This picture also come from a video of Sir Philippe. I think it's Siberia. are the condition of the windows underground. And this one is a picture from Estonia that I found very, very interesting. Here we can clearly see still the city of Tartu in Estonia being under process of cleanup. We can see that there's a couple of meters of mud and they are just cleaning it up. There is no explanation for this picture. This one is liquefaction event in Japan due to some earthquake, very, very powerful earthquake. And as we can see, the earth simply liquefied and covered the houses. Or the first floor of this building are covered exactly as we see on those images. This one is another image from Japan of liquefaction due to very powerful earthquake, sand boiling effect related to earthquake. As we can see, more or less is what we have been seeing in those old images. So this one is an image also from Japan. It's in the same article about liquefaction, and this man is showing us the effect of liquefaction, soil liquefaction. After the earthquake, as we can see, the ground have risen or the building have lower, but this is basically what the expert, the geologists, are calling liquefaction, soil liquefaction. And this one is what us, the conspiracy theorists, the crazy, mentally ill conspiracy theorists, are calling the mudflood. And if I show you, this is what geologists call liquefaction, and this is what us we have been calling since 6-7 years, since Sir Philippe basically tell us the name mudflood is what we are calling the mudflood. We can see there is exactly the same phenomenon, it's liquefaction. So, Sir Adrian, if you want, you can take me off from the full screen so that we can discuss this couple of topics.
Okay, here we are. Well, we have a lot of elements, no, to talking about. I think I would like, for example, to start with Mr. Philippe. And yes, we saw these lines, and also we saw all this mud flood, how we call it. But can you explain both of the things that we saw?
I've been saying it for years. It's all about mining, guys, So if we talk about mining, there's a gas mining, gas pipeline construction thing, right? So they have to create these pipelines. And so they clear the forest, obviously. But probably the technology that they have allows this forest not to be growing anymore at all. We don't have this technology. If we cut the trees, they start growing on these roads. But, most of these big ones that I've seen as an examples, they were not growing at all. So it's like, kind of a dead soil place. I hear echo myself. Maybe you should, David, turn off the mic, please. Yeah. So if you don't see the trees are growing, that's probably that ancient way of cleaning and clearing the area. And it could be just for creation of these minor cart roads, like little carts that we see that could be transferring, I don't know, whatever goods they are mining, or they could be the pipelines. Pipelines are pretty similar to in construction, so they need to be straight, but they also have some pressure elements which are like triangle. So I'm not sure exactly how that would be working in the forest of this way, but in modern way they do this angle stuff, this compensation angle on top. So they don't use any other soil, they just do it on top like this, because the pressure of the gas needs the compensation part on the pipeline. But when you have it like in Ukraine, we see these ancient pipeline marks. They have an angle type of compensation thing, and it looks like a star fort sometimes, like very, very long wall of star fort, which I also believe were powered by miners prior to the people came and started to maybe building whatever on that place. Basically, all the star forts, mainly in Europe and in other places, are the downtown of the city, right? The ancient part of the city. And it has like maybe some other parts of the star fort, which are also like, creating some centers or district centers of the city. Why is that? Because star forts probably had the gas inside. So the gas would be the power, and probably they use gas for light illumination, street lights, and so on. So we see that in the 19th century, very widely used in Europe was the gas illumination in the streets, especially in France. So I think if you don't have the natural gas source, you wouldn't be doing that, right? So if we see 19th century as a century where something was happening, then you probably have something what's leftovers of this technology, because somebody was using this gas for sure. It could be transported to maybe some other places, some other worlds, who knows, but also could be used on Earth. And it is actually one of the most valuable resources currently, right? The gas. You cannot imagine the world without natural gas. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I'm not sure that the lines in Africa are actually the forest lines, right? They could be just lines in the middle of nowhere, some desert type of landscape, right? Or could be some, I don't know, bushes or maybe little swamps. We don't know yet, but actually the technology of creating these long lines is very strange, because the measurement instruments that the humanity obtained to create such long roads or whatever were invented only in the end of 19th century. So if we actually haven't seen any Europeans in Namibia or any mining corporations that were operating in the area in the 20th century, then we probably won't find any tracks of that at all. So the explanation of these lines out of, in the desert landscape, or I don't know, or maybe we should also mention an ancient airport, I think in Gabon, which is currently used as a modern airport. But the problem is that they asphalted, they put it asphalt on top of it, but only like 2/3 of it are used, and it's like one of the longest runways in Africa, and we still cannot imagine how they would be using it for even longer purposes. So it's very strange. So there's no question that something was advanced back in the days, and it was as advanced as we are, or even more advanced than we are. So returning to the mudflood and liquefaction, I haven't researched these particular cases in Japan that David presented, and they look pretty decent to me as the liquefaction examples, and I believe he was researching it for sure. The examples that I was researching, they all seen that there was a flow of mud, not just like a mud was raising. There was always a flow. If you look at the aerial photo or aerial footage, the landscape sometimes is like looking like a flow, which is kind of stuck, and all these buildings are leaning to the side. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe this mud actually came, maybe it was raising as a liquefaction, but not as big one as I've seen. because the buildings are pretty safe, as you can see. The buildings are much well preserved. So I'm not sure there was a big earthquake or what, and how big it was. But the example of liquefaction I've seen, they all seen the houses were collapsing. Big houses, big apartment buildings. And if we're talking about big apartment buildings, not the small Japanese houses, which are made of wood, right? We're talking about construction and the I would say norms for construction. If we look at these norms, we would find out that any crack in the wall, in this holding carcass of the house, which you cannot penetrate or make any renovation with, you can do it with some other walls, but not with these walls. If you have any crack in the wall, then probably this house is going to collapse in like 20 years or even more if you won't reinforce it. If you have a crack in the foundation, it's going to grow for sure. So you cannot do anything without fixing the foundation. You're supposed to take it away and fix it. So any leaning or any flow in a place where you don't see any big foundations, and we don't see it on ancient buildings because they have very small foundations, by the way. As you can see that that big picture that David was showing, one of the last one, with really big deep excavation, it's in Kazan, and you can see that there's almost no foundation there. There's a whole brick wall. So it was all the facility. It was a basement, and only then just a small foundation blocks, maybe even less than we use today. So it doesn't match up. If it was a flow of mud and liquefaction would be doing this type of thing, it would probably collapse all the houses and crack all the walls, because this foundation wouldn't be holding to anything, because liquefaction is not like only on the top, it's all the way from down below, right? It's not only the top level of a liquefaction, it's not the top level only, it's all the way. So all this is moving, therefore your foundation is supposed to be leaning and the house would be collapsing. The only reason these wooden houses didn't collapse because they are very, very light in weight. They don't have brick walls, I would say. That's the reason. And that's why you see this type of thing, like, and probably they do have some better norms than those constructions that we see in Europe, which are currently mud flooded, because Japanese people know about earthquakes and they probably have a very heavy foundations and heavy walls on these big structures. If he was measuring like close to the big ladder, and this guy was like stretching this ruler or whatever, pointing out how deep it is, that construction is not a personal construction. That's a construction of I think it's like something like a church or something, right? Or maybe a building or some organization. So all these buildings that have like several floors in Japan, they are built a special way in anti-earthquake foundation type. That's why you don't see these cracks and so on, because they have these big foundations, and these foundations are monolith actually, and they have these like little gaps inside, and they are like stuck with rebars, and then the concrete was poured inside, so they don't actually move at all. And that's why we don't see any cracks, any problems with that building, actually, with this big building that they're showing how deep it is. But the smaller ones are just light. That's why they didn't collapse at all. You can see only some roof problems on some of them, but the buildings are standing still, and the whole street is pretty much safe. So they kind of excavated this mud, I bet, and still living in these houses. The problem with the brick houses, as David marked about the red brick and the moisture, yes, that is a problem, because we have a climate which is like freezing temperatures for water and so on, like 4 months in a year or even more. Sometimes it's like 5-6 months when you have freezing temperature. from time to time. Actually, you might have a pretty warm weather in a day, but you can have a heavy rain, which is gonna be freezing in the night in May, for example, in Russia. So there is no way you can do the underground construction with the red brick without insulation from water. And basically, what that proves is that these buildings were not supposed to be built this way. We are not even talking about the windows, because nobody would be bricking up these windows for no reason. They are bricking them up because all this water during the rains and snowfall and snow melting is going inside these facilities, right? That's why they are closing these windows and doors. In case when you see excavation and you have a glass window still there, what is the best example of being mud flooded? Who would believe in just the glass windows and excavating, or not excavating, but burying it with something? I don't know. You would probably be bricking up first, because windows could crack under the weight of this soil, basically, right? And you have all this soil inside of your facility in a couple of days. So that doesn't make any sense. Glass windows are not safe for such huge weight, which could be pressed in this window for whatever reason. Just for the temperature is, extending the elements when it's hot and making them shrink when it's cold. And the reason I'm saying that the red bricks are not for this is because of that. Because when you have them wet and it's freezing temperature, the ice will break the outside layer of the inside of the brick would be like a layering out and collapsing. And you see this somebody chewing this brick and chewing it to the point when it's where rain is actually hitting it as much as it can. So it's like basically 1 meter from the ground. That's why in Russia, when you find a brick house, a modern brick house, you always find it with this 1 meter or even more protection, something which is covering the brick, and very thick, by the way. So it's very hard to replace those bricks once they are eaten out by this wet moisture. So there's no reason also to talk about the bricks that are underground, which is being eaten by this fungi, whatever you call it, moisture, black plug, right? So you cannot live in the facilities. And what we see is everybody was living in those basements, as what they say. People just living in the basement, they were hiring this house, is what they say. Like when you go to London, you find out all these basement floors, and people have been living on top, and somebody's living in these ground floors. So basically, when you realize that you cannot, actually be sure that this person that is living below you wouldn't be smoking at night or whatever, maybe setting up fires. Who knows? It's 19th century. They've been using candles. Not everybody had electricity, right? It's not everywhere. So this, bottom people on the bottom are very dangerous, I would say, if they are not dangerous at all, right? For those on top. But this is ridiculous to say, because I wouldn't let anyone to live below me if I know he would be lighting candles every day, because the fire is the simplest way to explain it. So when they say it, they are lying to us, because actually when you take a deeper look at this problem, you find out that most of the houses are not even excavated to this level yet. There's a bunch of them, and they're only being excavated only 50 years ago, 30 years ago. So it's not like a total syndrome for the whole city. It's just several that have been excavated 100 years ago, several been excavated 50 years ago, and so on. So, and there's no logical explanation for the whole picture. So it's like that what they're trying to do is actually mislead, just give the simplest explanation possible as a cultural layer, for example, right? Like, but when you ask them why did it stop growing, they say, we don't know. Probably people started to clean the streets more properly. So, or the horse crap explanation, right? It's like people see the horse crap flowing inside of their facilities, so they grow the road, pedestrian road near their shops, so the people won't be walking shit in horse shit, and so less horse shit gonna flow inside. And the building next to that building also sees like, oh, all the shit is coming to my shop now I'm gonna build my road here. And this is like, the ridiculous thing I ever heard. But the people were actually paying money to hear this explanation, and that's the official version of it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. David, I see you laughing a lot. You have some question, or maybe you want to say something more? Your microphone is switched.
Is it working now? Is it
Okay.
working?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Very, very brilliant intervention from Sir Philippe. The point that he's basically repeating is that the mudflood doesn't make any sense. The liquefaction doesn't explain whatsoever what we are seeing, as very well explained by Sir Philippe, and very, very intelligent what Sir Philippe said about Japan. You see, I've used as an example Japan to show the soil liquefaction as an example, but Sir Philippe is very true what he said. We have to keep in mind that Japan have the basement of the houses, that they are monolithic, they are gigantic, and obviously the structure doesn't fall. While if we go, for example, in areas where there are no earthquake, like here in Finland, we can, or Latvia, we can see this problem of the red bricks that are the walls of the basement. And as Sir Philippe said, it doesn't make any sense. The house will collapse. If would be liquefaction, the house will be leaning, while the example that I have shown, it is a very good example, but we are talking about a very specific area of the world where those buildings are prepared for liquefaction. So the idea that the example that I took, the building obviously came down perfectly straight, and this Japanese man is showing, but Philippe gave the explanation is because those are specific buildings built in a highly seismic land. While if we go observe for example, Siberian building or Finland building, North American building, that they are in red bricks underground with windows. So there is no explanation why they didn't fall down, why they are not leaning on a side, exactly like Sir Philippe said, because those buildings, they were not built like that, because they would have protected those red bricks because they get rotten. And this, I said it, and Sir Philippe said exactly the same. And everybody that have a minimum of knowledge about construction and red bricks know that they can't be put underground. So the mud flood, the liquefaction, explain a little bit, but it can't explain what we are seeing. To me, the mud flood is almost unexplicable.
Well, I have an explanation. I've just, probably skipped this part. So if you want me, I can explain. I have several explanations for the mud flood.
Yeah, please, Sir Philippe.
Yeah, okay. So if you heard about dredging, dredging is the process when you clean the river, the bottom of the river. And there's a problem. with Russian rivers. There's a whole bunch of rivers in Russia, and all of them have to be cleaned to be used for shipment, for shipment of wood, whatever heavy things you can ship by the rivers. Rivers are actually very big one. Russia has like maybe top 5 of top 10 rivers, I would say, top 20 for sure. The width and the length. So Russians use rivers, and there's a problem with this because the river bottom needs to be cleaned so the ships would pass, and there's only a certain farvater, or how you use it, just a road, which are being marked by several special objects which are have lamps inside, like a little sea lighthouse, right? But only on the water, little things that are lightened. So, and the ship passed right in this farvater. Farvater means the area that it can use, because if it goes right, left, it gets stuck on some mud, right? Muddy bottom, and nothing can pull it off actually, unless you can use some heavy machinery. So there's something called dredger. I would like to show it. Maybe you haven't seen it before. Let's see. The dredger. Yeah. Let me show the screen. As you can see. So this is a thing that is basically it's cleaning the soil. Sometimes the mud, all the stuff from the bottom of the lake, or the bottom of the river, or the bottom of the sea, whatever you want to do it. So it throws these things like this. I don't know if you can see it clearly.
Yeah.
Look at this. So it's basically a flow of sand and mud from the bottom, which they are throwing away from that area and throwing it to this area. When you see the job done, you would have like a big hill of mud there. So that's a pretty fast way to put the city in the mud, like in maybe during the night. You can do it, right? So it's very easy way. If the city has a river nearby, you can easily pick up all this mud from the river bottom and throw it on the city. That's the first explanation. The second explanation is actually pouring the mud right to the some sort of mountains of hills, right? It could be a mud volcano, which can provide such so many mud that is being pressured on top of any landscape, and it create any form of landscape. I've seen mud volcanoes as big as mountains. So you climb it like all the way up, and there on the top you can see this mud boiling and some type of geyser things, all this steaming and stuff like this. So I have it some of my videos. So the explanation for these mud volcanoes is very simple. It's probably the result of previous drilling. When you have drilling, you have to seal the well after you're done, after you leave it. Let me see. Well, drilling. So this is how you do it. And there's a huge pressure underneath here. And so when you're done, very small pictures here. When you're done, you just leave the well and seal it with cement or maybe some plug and get out. I bet it can be holding it for like 100 years. When 100 years passed, all this cement and stuff can be ruined or even, dissolved by rains and so on. So the well is basically unplugged, and you can see all this mud under pressure going up to the ground and creating these mud volcanoes, which are not stopping at all. Why is the mud so hot? Because it's hot on the ground. That's why it is hot, and sometimes it's even boiling. You can cook eggs in it and so on. So and it also contains with natural gas and other gas inside, and you also can extract metals from this mud, which is also a mining technology. There's so many mining technologies that are related to mud and extraction of minerals from the mud. I know at least two that are currently used, which is dehydration technology. When you have pouring all this mud into huge bags, and the water is pouring out of the bags, leaving inside all the all this dry mud type of thing, which can be used and processed, or you can construct the walls from it, looking like monolith walls like this. So imagine all these blocks were bags, and the bag totally dissolved. All this texture, all this clothing of the bag is dissolving for years, and you can see only a mud that is petrified in this way, and it can be looked as granite. It can look as any other rock, actually. And that's the easiest way to construct it. So it's concrete blocks which are being poured in certain forms, and these forms create these patterns. Sometimes it's complex forms, sometimes it could be used with bag technology, sometimes it could be used as a just simple concrete technology. It depends on the size of these block, actually, and on this form that they use. Dehydration. So these bags look like this, like huge sludge dehydration, and it can be, these bags can be put on each other. So it's like I don't know if you can see this.
Yes, we can see it. But then the bags dissolve with the time, you see. And,
yeah, they can dissolve. They can dissolve because they are not perfect, of course, and they can hold for centuries. So just imagine the scale that the bags could be, and be any size, and could be placed on each other, on top of each other, like this. So doesn't this remind you the walls I've been showing to you? And this is a structure, as you can see. This is how it looks. That's how the water is being sucked out. Sometimes they use this hose to suck out all the water and all the minerals. Sometimes they use it like just to get dry, and so on. So it depends on the processing and what they're actually mining. Okay. Hope I made your day.
Yeah. Very well, very well. Well, I will go to Francesco. Francesco, we were talking about technologies in the past, no, that can make all these things that we saw until now, no, like for example, a pipeline underground to take gas from the earth, and also these bags that contain maybe something that can create this wall. We also see drilling, the I would say. The river also, and maybe sometime they create also this mountain of mud. So we are talking about ancient technologies, but it's really similar to modern technologies. So do you think that we have to change our mind on what the past present to us like technologies? Because we think that in the past the technologies was really easily, really simple. No, we still think about this man with the hammer that make this stuff. No, but I think that this is crazy because we see some building around the world really complicated, really weird. What do you think about it?
Okay, Adri. I made some studies in the past about this stuff, and I don't know really because I didn't study too much. I studied something about geopolymer. I don't know if Philip Druzinin and David know about this stuff. I studied, for example, a book from Josef Davidovits, an expert of geopolymer, that explains that maybe, for example, pyramids or other monolith buildings are made by with geopolymer, but I don't know. For me, it's I don't know. I'm sorry, Adri.
No worry.
For me,
Geopolymer is that mud, by the way. So that is geopolymer.
Yes.
So.
Okay. So for me, it's an important explanation, and we can see how in modern days something about construction is built with geopolymer. So I think that is an truly possible explanation about the way how these constructions maybe was built. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay. So you think at least that maybe we just forget some kind of technologies that maybe is more simple how as we believe it now.
I think so. Yes, I think that the past technology is not truly different compared to the technology that we're now using today.
Okay, no, because today sometimes we say, oh yes, this building is really hard to recreate now with our technologies. No, so maybe they have for sure some kind of weird technologies that we forget, but actually sometimes it's more simple, more easy, no, on what we think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yes, we think always to a difficult explanation. We talk always about the difficult ways, but maybe the reality is more simple that we can think.
Okay. David,
All that is genius is simple. All that is genius is simple. Is what
yeah, yeah, that's true. I
And
want
maybe
to come
Adri,
back to
if I can
Sure.
ask a question to Sir Philip, to Sir Philip and Sir David about the mudflood phenomenon, because I'm ignorant about this kind of argument because I've never studied a lot. But I think to myself, maybe the famous universal flood be considered as a possible previous reset, and maybe is another liquefying phenomenon like mud flood. Even so, I'm sorry.
No worry. Yeah, I
Okay.
think I understand, but I don't know if David or Phil want to answer before. Okay, David.
So Francesco, very interesting question. If I understood well, what you're saying is that there has been several different reset historically.
Exactly. Yes.
I totally agree. Reset are very real, And now I gonna in my next slide, I wanna give evidence, undoubtable evidence that something took place, something deeply wrong took place at the beginning of 1800. There is no doubt. Unfortunately, Sir Philippe and I already 6-7 years ago, we were throwing out theories, try to figure it out what this mud flood is all about. Unfortunately, lately, in the last couple of years, people that they were working basically with the truth community, try to figure it out what this all mean. They just turn against us and they start to spit in the plate where they used to eat. And the same people that they were researching the reset of 1800 with us. One day with another, they turn beside and they said, no, there is no evidence of any reset in 1800. The mud flood is completely fake. The series are not empty. It's the camera that is. And we're going to talk in a moment. We're going to talk about the picture of 1800. No, so just lately we start to have people coming out, telling us that basically everything that we have been proposing and studying, especially Sir Philippe, there is, since the beginning, one of the only one that was actually trying to figure it out and give explanation for what we are seeing, because it's a mind-blowing enigma. We have a problem that people start to try to debunk something that is undebunkable, that is the mud flood. So we have been losing lately, for a couple of years, time in just try to figure it out, some evidences to convince people that something deeply wrong took place at the beginning of 1800. Sir Philippe, for example, since I know him 6-7 years ago, he always proposed that this mud come from mining. Always, since I don't know if at some point he changed his idea, but when the mud flood started to come out publicly, it was thanks to Sir Philippe. In those time, basically, there was some researcher. In those time, there was a great channel called Age of Disclosure, and he was trying to put all of us together. And there was many channel with us that they were talking about the mud flood. For example, Madame Sylvie Ivanova in the New York channel, Wise Up, there were channels that they were talking about the mud flood, but they were just showing one picture and of windows underground and few words. Basically, nobody really was researching until Sir Philippe. Basically, he was alone. He was translating for the entire world all of this Russian study. He was making a epic work. And by the way, his videos were having much less attention than other channels that they were talking complete crap. But basically, I think that at some point everybody thought that Sir Philippe is going to tell us how to look at the mud flood. And nobody was really coming out with any theory. Myself either. I was really just hoping that Sir Philippe one day I'm gonna wake up and there's all the answer about the mud flood, because to me it is inexplicable. Still, to my poor level, I'm without culture. So for my little mind, it is inexplicable. I just don't get it. But Sir Philippe kind of started worldwide. I'm talking. He became the number one because he was the only one really researching 100% the mud flood, and he started to make a full series titled "The Mud Flood," and then he moved on and he kept proposing or giving at least theories, idea, things that nobody in those times were doing. And in those times, Philippe was proposing, and he never changed idea for what I can hear still to these days, that mining technology was at work, so that this mud was under pressure in mining hole, drilling hole, like has been repeated now, and at some point this mud just blew out. in both the theory that just proposed by Sir Philippe, so the cleaning of the bottom of the rivers and the drilling for water, for example, they are both very logical, because we have to keep in mind that cities, the old cities, were both built close to a river, or they were drilling for whatever they were needing close to the city. Because if it was an industrial mining, for example, so the drilling were industrial, you can understand that the city has been built because they knew that there was something to drill out. So basically, the city is built beside of the mining area. Therefore, there are the drills, then the city, time pass, city get built, this mining holes blow up, and we see the mud. This, for what I've understood, is more or less what Sir Philippe has been proposing for years, and it does make a lot of sense. Because liquefaction, I repeat that it doesn't explain so many things.
Everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't explain everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sir Philippe, with both these ideas of drilling holes that blow up and this mud get to the city, and that's why we don't see this mud, this meter of mud. We cannot see it in the forest, for example. We can, here in Finland, you go in the forest and the bedrock is completely out. So where is the cultural layer? If it should be in the forest, 2 meters of cultural layer, and because of the trees, the pollen, and whatever. And you go to the city and there is no cultural layer. But this clown, they are telling us the opposite. So that basically in the city, dust, dirt accumulate, people are not sweeping the street. And like in Rome, we come out with 12 meters of mud. Remember that one of my best friend is professor, but now is jubilated, but used to be professor of the University of Rome of history and philosophy. And when I show the video of the excavation of Rome done by Mussolini, when they are cleaning away all of this mud, 15, 20 meters of mud, I ask what are the cathedratic giving as an explanation for that mud. And the professor, without not even thinking, he told me, are cultural layers. It's because thousands and thousands of years of deposit. And I ask, excuse me, but why the people were not sweeping the street? Rome has never ceased to be inhabited. If Rome was abandoned for a couple of thousand years, you could say, okay, the mud, the dust, but no. And this is the official narrative that it is given for this phenomenon worldwide is cultural layer. And it cannot be. And the idea that Sir Philippe is proposing, that this mud blow up from drilling hole, it makes sense, because the drilling hole, you're going to make it close to the city. And the people that were living in the city were the people that they were working in those drill holes. Then city grow, drill holes got closed. Nobody really remembered that that city was created because of mining. People have forgot. The city have grown up, but at some point it blew up. And at this point, you see that the mud is in the cities and the mud is not in the forest. To me, Sir Philippe, with this idea, he brings us forward, let's say.
But my idea is that it's not like, as occasion or something. So it's like a repeatable action. And why do they do that, actually? If they're actually blowing up these wells to flood the city, why are they doing it? They are doing it to hide something, right? What could they be hiding? What could they be hiding? We've seen a lot of reports, so-called reports, from different cities where we don't see people on the streets. So according to what we know about last couple of years, where we saw such phenomenon where you can actually see a lot of footage from different cities. David, please turn off the mic. From different cities, and nobody's around, right? Like a ghost town, New York, ghost town, Moscow, a whole bunch of cities were filmed this way. And I think it's just because they also use something like this. So it's like a very big minus for government if your people would know that you are actually don't do anything in such situation when people are just dying and you're supposed to do something with these corpses. So that's why we see so many corpses excavated in those basements, so-called basements, but actually first floors, when they do excavation. For example, in Moscow, probably out of last 100 excavation, maybe only 20, 30 of them didn't have corpses inside. Other 70, 60 excavations either had some bones there in the ground or some full bodies. And they also put it into the period of Stalin, Bolsheviks that been shooting a bunch of people and so on in his basements and his KGB and blah, 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 blah. But most of the time, these things, as what they say that they found, is 19th century that have been found in the ground, like coins, spoons, different stuff, dishes, and so on. So what I think is that they had to get rid of the corpses, and they had to do it very fast. And so that could be probably the reason, because as an ex-economic crimes department head, basically a cop, I would say that the criminal is definitely hiding the evidence from your crime scene. So if they are doing these resets from time to time, and it's all controlled, and it's special teams that are being organized to do that they definitely hiring some people from other cities and so on, so they don't have any feelings towards these people in this town, as what they do in Moscow, for example. When they want to get rid of a riot or something, they bring people from other regions, from other republics and districts of Russia, just to be more not to be easy on these people that are rioting and trying to protest. And I think they do it in France with this yellow jacket thing. That's like bringing people from other cities and kicking these protesters out of the street. And so I think that's how these teams, which I call bombero teams, I made a serious videos on these participants of the reset and these tracks to them and how they connect to modern elites and so on. So it's all connected, actually, if you watch it. And you find out that even this thing that was for 2 years is also brilliantly connected to this series that I've made on Crown, Corona, and Ray Bradbury video, so-called. And so what they were doing, these teams, they were doing the job, the reset job. So they could be starting the fire, they could be starting a war, they could be starting some type of disease. Why not? So we know a bunch of epidemics in Europe, right? Which were plague several times and so on. And so this looks to me as a credible explanations of why they were burying these first and second floors, is because so many people were dying and they had to get rid of these bodies. And so the clay is one of the best absorbers for biological waste. Best and the cheapest one. So I guess that's the explanation. If we don't see so many corpses, okay, we don't see corpses, then probably the reset team was working well and was cleaning up the area very good. But sometimes when you don't see some corpses, you will find them sooner or later in other places nearby, as what they've been finding in Canada recently, near the orphan houses. And so many kids were buried, and you can find it in the news. So I think that's the explanation, because if we didn't see this madness for 2 years, I would probably not even mention it right now. But I was saying it prior to that, by the way. And I've been saying that the clay is one of the best absorbers. That's why we see clay, nothing else. And the mud volcano clay that's coming out is kind of gray color, actually. And the clay that we find in the cities is yellow color. And that was the point always for me, I was stumbling in it, and I was saying like mud volcanoes work perfectly, but they produce gray mud, and that didn't work. But when I went on the side of mud volcano, I found out that all the mud turns yellow and brown color once it oxidizes on fresh air. So it's like when it's coming out, it's gray, and it's drying out, it's yellow and red. So as we see in the cities, so that's a perfect explanation, I think, for the intentional cause. There could be also some natural cause, as we see in different cities worldwide, called as a flash flood or mudslide. But it's always near the mountains or big hills, right? Which I also tend to believe are the huge stockpiles of byproducts of the ancient mining. That's why it's actually doesn't actually hold at all. And when the rains come, it's flushing this mud from the side of the mountain, and it collapses. And we see these mudslides in Switzerland and many other things where it's so colorful and looking like these flows of gray mud because it's wet. When the mud is wet, it's turning gray color, as it is when it's coming out of the mud volcano. So I hope that makes sense for you.
Yeah, sure. Make a big sense. So
Yes.
when we heard,
Thank you, Philip and David.
yeah, thank you very much. So when we heard about people that saying that in the past maybe some weapon with frequencies, how to say, melt the floor in, yeah, this is a bullshit.
David wanted to say something.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, guys? Can you
Yeah.
hear me? Okay. Sir Philippe, let me repeat what you just said. Tell me, can you hear me? Can you hear me, guys? Okay. Tell me, Sir Philippe, if I understood well. What you are proposing is that from time to time, this reset, it is made, let's say, by a group of elite. And that this group of elite have a team which is very specialized in reset. So they are basically called at the moment of the reset. They come, they know what to do. For example, there is some echo, strange echo. Okay. Can you still hear me? So my question is very, very creepy, Sir Philippe, really. At the beginning, when we started studying the mudflood, so 6 years ago, I had a very, very, very creepy idea. Can it be that those cities were actually purposely buried? Can it be that the people were sent underground with an excuse, for example, a war, for example, a pandemic, because we see the catacomb under this city? Can it be that they put the people underground, that's why the city are empty, and they close the shaft where the people were breathing? And they let them die underground, and with the bones, we see them down there. Can it be possible?
Well, in some cities, possible. Why not? Because we see that the morale is different in different regions of Earth. Like you probably would be finding somebody on the islands in Pacific Ocean, which never seen anybody from the Western world. They probably eat these people if they would be landing in the 19th century on these islands, right? They probably catch them and eat them, or maybe claim him as a god or something, or praise them and be worshiping these people. So it's very different. You don't know who actually was having such intentions or what, but we can actually find a whole bunch of underground stuck with many, many bones. So probably the most reasonable explanation for this was actually the keeping people on the ground, or stocking them there. Stocking, I mean, preparing them for future consumption. Like we stock food in the fridges, the people can be stuck during only being alive, because I wouldn't explain that actually, but everybody would understand what I'm saying. So people are kept alive underground for being being eaten by somebody, and that's why you see so many boiled bones. They are not just clean and shiny, just like this. Sometimes you can swipe the dust and you can see it's all clean. There's no flesh on it. And if you excavate the body from the underground, you would see clothes, other things getting petrified on these bones and getting stuck to it. So it's very hard to clean these bones once you exhumate the body, to do some research, for forensic research for some reason, or whatever you're doing it for, DNA research. You have to clean all this stuff off. Or when you find a body in the ground which is not buried, also all these clothes on him are getting stuck to these bones and so on. And so they are not clean at all. You have to boil those bones for several days sometimes, just to get rid of this grease and dirt and mud and blood and clothes and so on. So what I'm saying, if you see stocked undergrounds with clean cooked bones, some of them have even holes inside, so these liquid inside the bones probably been sucked out by some cannibals or something. So that's my explanation for these bones. And probably these groups of people were hunting these people during these chaotic times and consuming them. Who knows? But the process of just burying people as a biological waste doesn't require consumption. So that's two different processes. Probably, perhaps, or some people were just hiding in the houses, like we saw for 2 years, like people were sitting at home and so on. Just the most logical explanation, right? Nobody would be putting them on the ground. But if these people start to die, right? They are just dying in their houses, right? Nobody would be taking them out to get buried because everybody is dying, like they had been doing in Leningrad during the blockade for several 100 days. It was 900 days. 900 days was totally surrounded by Germans, and so people were eating people there too. Sometimes mothers were cutting their hands and giving this blood to their child to survive. Somebody was cooking themselves for their kids in Leningrad. So it's very hard time. I would be calling a reset city too. St. Petersburg, Leningrad is very reset city. So you feel it once you get there. You feel this cold, goosebumps on your body, and it's always like this mystical thing. But actually, once you leave these people inside the houses and they're getting dead for some reason, you have to take them out of these houses. But if they are so contagious that everybody is dying in contact with them, that's probably the reason to just bury the whole city, right? And just do the job with the top floors. Maybe 1-2 floors left, and that's it. And the top 2 are already. So you get rid of most of the people this way. You get rid of most of the bodies, I would say. Only those up there on top floors are left. So that's probably solving half of the problem before cleaning the city for future population of it, for bringing new people inside. Okay?
Okay. David, you have some new topic to talk about, yeah?
Yeah. So what I was planning to say to Sir Philippe is that I thank you, sir, because I thought that I was the only one flipping out, thinking that yes, can be that the people in the catacomb have been eaten. There is no doubt that those bones have been boiled, and I found a very, very interesting mention in Ukraine when I was making the documentary The Reset with you, with Martin Littke and Conspiracies, where they are saying that under Kiev, there are several hundred kilometers of tunnels, and that I found a mention where there has been an expedition before that they got sealed, and when they went down there, they found catacomb full of bones, exactly like they found in Paris. So and also piled up, I saw some picture, and they exactly look like the one in the catacomb in Paris. It looks like that it wasn't just a case what have happened in Paris, but it looks like that under the series there are this tunnel. Imagine that under Helsinki there are over 200 kilometers of man-made tunnels. Nobody know who made it. The official narrative, they tell us that they are ghost station for the metro, but 200 kilometers of man-made tunnel for metro that they are not used. Nobody's using. Is kind of under Helsinki with the population of Helsinki. So here, Sir Philippe, thank you for telling me that I'm not that crazy. I think that there is an agenda in sometime resetting and get rid of some of the bodies, and the idea that they cover with mud is very logical. Unfortunately, very creepy, very sinister, but it does make sense. It does.
What do you do with the cattle when the cattle gets sick, right? You bring it to some, ditch and bury it. That's what they do with this Siberian disease, like what they sent in this mailing things for embassies. Have you heard about this embassy sending Siberian spores or something? How do you call it? Very, very, very contagious disease, which is actually when you breathe it, you totally die. So in Russia, what they do with this cattle, they just bury it with clay and mud. Go on.
See, so absolutely very, very, very crazy, very creepy. And as you can see, as I mentioned earlier to Adrian and Francesco, as you can see, 8 years later, we still don't know anything about the mudflood. And the little that we know, I can guarantee you that it came from the beginning from Sir Philippe. So basically, Sir Adrian, you have the best on the topic of mudflood. You have it here because I was there. I was one of the first one to start making question about this mud, and the only one that really was actively try to figure it out what it all mean was Sir Philippe. He was one video after the other one. He was adding a little bit, and he always kept repeating that there's something with mining. So the theory haven't changed, and as you can see, we still don't have any idea. I think that at this moment nobody really know how to explain such event.
One little addition, you can basically find a bunch of cases with mining corporations when a city gets destroyed or somebody gets so many diseases after they're mining something, like a bunch of waste goes to pollute the rivers and people drink this water and die and so on. So many cases of that during the history of 20th century. So just imagine if that was in 19th and 18th century. That would be pretty much the same. The town dies, mining corporation hides the evidence, and that's it, right?
Very, very creepy, the mudflood, guys. This I honestly, Sir Adrian, I can guarantee you that if you continue researching the mudflood, it's just gonna creep you out. It's 6-7 years that I'm traveling around Europe with Mira, researching the mudflood, and it is very, very creepy, very, very sinister.
Sure.
So we move to another topic. What you think? I share the screen. Present. Share screen. Fine. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
So we are in full screen at this moment, no?
Yes, exactly.
Allora, wait, Ghost City. Okay, so basically, Sir Philip, as I already explained, was the person that started to deeply research the mudflood, and he started a series, a very, very interesting long series, few years back, 4 or 5 years ago, called the mudflood. If I'm not mistaken, was the episode 6 or 11, I don't remember now, but there was out of the blue, Sir Philip came out with a very peculiar enigma. And on the screen at this moment, we can observe an old photo. It belonged to 1861, and it is showing us the city, the center of the city of St. Petersburg. Sir Philip, 5 years ago, just came out presenting this panoramic picture. Now I'm going to show you the other section, asking simply, where are the people? Sir Philip brilliantly was pointing out that if we observe the shadow generated by the Alexander column, by the way, the Alexander column, which is the largest monolithic column in the world, was in theory, is a lie, but was brought from Finland. So I brought Sir Adrian to the quarry, where in theory that monolithic column was taken off from the bedrock. It's a complete joke and a lie, but anyway. But what Sir Philip brilliantly was making us notice is that if you observe the shadow, can be 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. So 9, 10 o'clock in the morning in the center of St. Petersburg, just look, the city behind is massive. There is no one trolley, no one horse. At that point, obviously, bunches of experts on camera turn on the story, try to explain us that the lack of people is because of the exposure of the camera, the long exposure of the camera. So if we just look at the trees at the bottom, we can see that that long exposure doesn't exist. There is zero wind. There is no trolley, no horses, no nothing. This one is the second part of this panoramic photo. We can see obviously a very obvious cleaning up process of mud on the street. There's nobody. They put some wood on the square to walk because the road, the square is completely mud. This one is a photo of Toronto from 1854, so around the same period of the panoramic photo of St. Petersburg. We can see this image from Toronto, completely empty city, just 2-3 people on the street at St. Petersburg, but the process of the cleaning of the mud is very similar, as you can see. So it looks like that we caught, and it's exactly 5-year difference between the two images. So it looks like that there was a lot going on in this series at the same time. This
well, you can clearly see that they're excavating if you zoom in the street.
Yeah, yeah. In your video, Sir Philippe, you were zooming and showed that there are people with shovel, actually really 2 or 3, because the rest of the square is completely empty. And Sir Philippe was pointing out that there are people, if you zoom in, with shovel cleaning.
And it was not 9. It's definitely after the midday. I would say it's like 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Day because the sun is shining from the west, and if it's shining from the west, so that's definitely the second half of the day, right?
Oh. Okay, and I don't think that it changed much. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there should be people around. The lack of horses and trolley is difficult to explain. One thing very brilliant, highlighted by Sir Philippe at the moment of describing this particular panoramic photo, very, very brilliant observation from Sir Philippe. The roof are brand new. As we can see, there is this mud cleaning process going on. The city look dirty or abandoned, but all of the roof are in steel and are brand new. I found it a really, really impressive observation from Sir Philippe. This one is the other section of the panoramic photo. There are no trolley. If this is the exposure of the camera because people are moving, why the trees on the right side are completely still, for example. We're going to see more example in a moment. This is the last part of the panoramic photo. Where are the boats? Sir Philippe was pointing out that we can see one boat moving, all the rest are dock, and there is absolutely nobody. The road very, very dirty. And if we go check in history books, they are telling us that everything in St. Petersburg was moved by barges. There is no doubt. So you would expect to see this port packed of boat and barges.
Yeah.
But this is not, unfortunately, what we're seeing here.
Yeah, long exposure says that you're supposed to see these shadows of moving objects which are captured by the camera, and you actually see these shadows of the people walking by, but very few of them. And the point is that in the middle of the day, in the capital of huge country, one of the biggest cities with the hugest population, in the middle of the day, you don't see much people moving around, and those who are moving are cleaning the streets. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely. Now we're gonna see more example. This one is Helsinki. So we are 300-400 kilometer. excuse me. We are 300-400 kilometer away from St. Petersburg. This one is first photo ever taken of Helsinki, of the city of Helsinki. In 1852, same problem. There's nobody in the street. If somebody want to think that is the long exposure of the camera, we have to keep in mind that there is a reason behind why people are proposing that it can be the long exposure of the camera, because for what they are telling us, this clown, and I'm going to prove you there is absolutely a lie, there was, in 1850, there was some 15 minutes of exposure. So basically from the moment that you were going to take the picture to the moment that the picture was taken was 15 minutes. We're going to see if it makes sense in a moment, this speculation, let's say. The problem of this picture is that we can see only two cart print on the floor, and one going up, one coming back. There is no doubt that those are print of trolley. There is an object in the middle of the road on the right side, and you can see that the print of the trolley just pass on top of it. So the road is dirty, and there is one trolley going up, one trolley coming back. There is absolutely nobody here. We have to keep in mind that the building on the hill behind is the most important building of Finland, Helsinki Cathedral, and was completed exactly this year. So the year that they took this picture, that building was just finished. But we don't see any construction. We don't see any inauguration. There are no picture of the construction or anything that you can find. This one is again Helsinki, same period, 1860, road completely dirty. There is nobody. There's no smoke from the chimney. Here in Finland, we have the tradition of sauna. The sauna, the public sauna were lighted 24/7. So also for the poor people, for example, to go wash themselves, you're never going to see smoke from the chimney, and the city look completely abandoned. This is again Helsinki, 1880. No boat. There should be boats in front. There's nothing. There is just dirty, very dirty road. This one is Helsinki again, 1860. Helsinki. This is Naantali. As we can see, the windmill are completely stopped. Otherwise, they wouldn't be captured so well defined. And there is no movement, absolutely. These are all of the images that I could find of 1860 Finland. there is no movement, basically.
They could be stopped because the exposure wasn't so long, by the way. It's just click the photo, and that's why they captured it like this. But this guy telling us that the long exposure was present up to 1860s, 1870s, but it's not true. The exposure meters say that they've been having exposure for 15 seconds in that time.
Yeah, in fact, I totally agree. It's a complete joke. Now I'm gonna show some anomalies, and the idea that in 1860s there was such long exposure time, it's a complete joke and is an insult for the human mind. I'm gonna show some example. This is still Helsinki. Helsinki completely surrounded by sea. You're never gonna see a boat. No, never see any movement. This one are this is Helsinki is this one is the main entrance to the main square of Helsinki. This one is the second entrance. So the square, the church, the cathedral is in our back at this moment, and we're looking away from it. And as you can see, there's nobody in the street. If somebody thinks there is the long exposure, you're welcome. But look at the windows. We are in Finland. We have at this moment 19 hours of light. So in winter we have almost 20 hours of darkness. You can trust, you can believe me that everybody have the window open. We don't have any way to shut the light coming in, not even when we go to sleep, just a small curtain. It is typical here in Finland. And in all the picture 1860s Helsinki, the windows are completely closed. This is Montreal, 1860, exactly same period. All of the windows are closed. You can see, again, as was pointing out Sir Philippe, very well, very good observation. Look at the pole at the bottom. You can see the shadow of the sun. It is telling us there is more or less 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And this is the city of Montreal. All of the windows are closed and windows looking at the sun. So very, very strange, very peculiar. Montreal, downtown Montreal is this one. And windows completely closed, nobody in the street, no horse shit, no garbage, no nothing. This one is again Helsinki. In theory, they are telling us that everybody was dying of hunger. In 1865, the strongest, one of the strongest famine of Europe took place. It's a complete joke. It is just to justify the presence of all of these orphans that we're going to talk in a moment. And as we can see, there are animals all over. There is nobody begging, nobody asking for any food, and nobody asking for any money. It's a complete joke, unfortunately. This one is 1880. Right after seeing the city of Helsinki completely empty, boom, we can read that orphan kick in at in 1880. They are very, very well documented, the orphan phenomenon here in Finland, and these are the pictures that come after this phenomenon of the orphans. So the city are empty, orphans show up, city packed of people. Look at the wall of the cathedral. In theory, that cathedral was completed 21 years before this picture. So that wall was completed, finished 21 years before this picture, and 21 years before this picture, Helsinki became capital of the country. So the idea that a new capital with a new building after 20 years is reduced in that condition, it's a joke. It is much more logical to think that this city have lived an event and that they are cleaning which is exactly what we are seeing in Toronto and in St. Petersburg, this cleanup process. As you can see, these are the stairs. They go up to the church, are completely full of mud, unpracticable. So this city have lived a reset. Here you can see even it is broken away, this section of the wall. This building wasn't complete 20 years earlier, obviously. This is St. Petersburg, the Winter Palace. Nobody, couple of horses, Winter Palace again. This one is a very, very important picture. As you can see on the left side, we have a column. Look at the column. It is showing us there has been buried and clean up the whole wall. Actually, you can follow the line of mud clearly. And here we can see that this man, supposedly in 1860, again, minutes and minutes of exposure. What this man was, minutes and minutes like that. It even looks Photoshop, honestly, this person. Same thing here. Nobody, St. Petersburg again. And we have this man, exactly same position that the other one, look really Photoshop. And what is it doing there in that position for several minutes? It just doesn't make any sense. Paris, no garbage, no horse shit. Donkey horses were used with a trolley, no garbage. Problem with waste managing, no sign. Paris again. Oh, these are all pictures that come from videos of Sir Philippe Drusinin of few years back videos. This same thing, Sir Philippe actually, when was describing this exact picture, he was pointing out, saying he's not saying that there was nobody. Some people are there, but certainly not as many as it should be. These are massive city, this Paris, very, very little people. This one is a very good example of the camera exposure that we were talking about. This is a picture 1860 Milan, Duomo. As we can see, the people are blurred because of the long exposure, but they appear, and the horses appear, and the trolley are there. This one is an 1843, one of the earliest picture of Paris. And we can see a large crowd. They say there is an unknown event, but we can see a large crowd, and we can see that the square is packed of people. We can see the water of the fountain. So people, even if blurred ghost, they were caught by the camera. This one is the picture that Sir Philippe brought to the world attention. There's no trolley, no nothing. If in 43 they could catch the people, 20 years later, so 20 years of technology forward, and they cannot take the horses. It's garbage, it's a joke. These are images 1860 to 1870 Finland. Where is the exposure of the camera? These are forest. Finland is a completely flat land, very windy, very, very, very windy. What is the exposure of the camera? Look at the water. Also, the observation of the water come from Sir Philippe Drusinin. In those times, he was asking how they managed to catch the movement of the water, the reflection of the trees on the water moving, but they cannot catch the people. Again, Finland, this is a bit later, 1880, still no sign of any wind, no nothing, no exposure. These are buffalo from a wonderful video of Sir Philippe Drusinin. I present this video several times on my channel. Sir Philippe was asking, this photo, if I even remember well, is from Roger Fenton or something like this, 1852. If I'm not mistaken, I still remember the date. And Sir Philippe was asking, how did they manage with such long exposure, of time exposure, how did they manage to stay still this buffalo? It is basically impossible, and it is proving that we have been lied about the technology of the camera.
Yeah, both 15 minutes exposure and 15 seconds exposure doesn't explain this for sure.
Yeah.
But it wasn't me who showed you this picture. You probably found somebody else. I know this picture. Yeah.
I just, Sir Philippe, I just took it today again from your video. This is your...
Okay. I just made so many videos, I might forget.
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly. It's a very, very old video. It's called Stage Exposure. And as we can see, this one, it just doesn't explain it. We can see that the technology, the exposure is the same than nowadays. Because if I take a picture 2 days of buffaloes, it's going to come out exactly like this. Doesn't make sense. Again, photo from the video of Sir Philippe. He was asking, how did this horse manage to stay still for such long? Even the man laughing, he's there laughing for 15 minutes, basically. This one, again, Sir Philippe was asking how that man is with a leg moving. We can see it clearly. It's also pointed by Sir Philippe. Is moving the leg is coming down from the stairs. The idea that this person was there 15 minutes, 10 minutes, it doesn't matter, 50 seconds is ridiculous, doesn't make any sense. And the same with this gorgeous photo, again, 1850s from the video Sir Philippe. This girl is jumping up the fence, and what, she's there 15 minutes, basically staying like that for the camera to be taken. No, obviously the technology of the camera was much superior than what we've been told. This one instead proved the whole scam. This is fake. This picture is completely fake. It's a 1862 photo of Venice. If somebody believes that this photo is original, I'm really sorry for this person. It's really, really pathetic. But even if it would be a true photo, where is the exposure? 15 minutes, these people standing there like that, no comment. This one is an 1840 photo of the moon. It's the first one from New York in 1840, no doubt. I made a video with Static in the Attic and Wooden Nichols and Ewar. They were insisting that in 1840, the camera have 15, 16 minutes of exposure, of camera exposure. So this picture shouldn't exist, because 16 minutes the moon would have been moving, and if the moon was moving, obviously the crater were not so well defined. So
yeah,
here
they couldn't focus on the moon for so long without tracking it. It's supposed to be capturing the movement and following it all the way.
Yeah, so we can see that it doesn't make any sense what they're telling us. This is a picture of the moon of 1840, and the quality is basically of our days. So no, it doesn't make any sense what they are telling us. And what we see, if we take off from our mind this joke of the camera exposure, what we see is empty series without any movement. This one is Barcelona, 1860. Where are the people? Everything completely dirty, complete joke. This one is Prague. Again, look at the shadow. It's early afternoon. This is the main square of Prague. There's nobody, there's no market, there is no trolley, no horse shit. They were moving with donkey, with horses. Where is the horse shit? This is Dam Square in Amsterdam. Where are the people? Where is the market? These are the canals of Amsterdam. I've been through maybe 100 pictures because I focus on Amsterdam. I've been living there pretty long. There is nothing. This again, Amsterdam. Where are the people? Where are the trolley? Where are the boats? Nothing. This one is Madrid. Same thing. Center of Madrid. This is the main road of Madrid from La Puerta del Sol to Cibeles. There's nobody. This is Plaza Cibeles, 1870. Nobody. For a couple of people, couple of trolley. Same thing here. Madrid. Nobody, no trolley, no horse shit. This one is Mexico City. Do I have to comment here? This is center of Mexico City. Where is all the mud coming from? You can see only the print of one trolley that passed by. This one is Bombay in India. Look like Rome. Look at the building. This basically is Italy. Instead it's Bombay in India, guys. Just to let you know how fake is the...
One guy sitting there on the steps, I see.
Yeah. Incredible. One person, the road completely. And as we can see again, the tree is on the right. There is no camera exposure or nothing. There's nobody. Athens, 1860. Nobody. Tree is perfectly caught by the camera. Rome, incredible. Nobody around the ruins. Nobody care about the ruins. This is Lisbon, all same period. These are all the city. Look at this one of Montmartre in Paris. This one, 1842. Do you think that this one is a city that is doing good, or is a city that just experienced a reset? This one, 1842, completely devastated Paris. This one is Jerusalem, 1857, if I'm not mistaken. Same thing. Everything completely devastated. Nobody around. This one is Jerusalem. This one, 1842. I repeat, staying at the studies of Starik in the Attic and Wudernikes, brutal presentation. They made a gigantic research on the camera exposure, and they are telling us that 15, 16 minutes of camera exposure in 1840. How they took this photo from the sky. So in 1840s, the technology to fly was the dirigible, the Zeppelin. So they are flying with 15, 16 minutes of exposure. The dirigible would be moving, and as the dirigible was moving, this city, we could never seen it. It would be completely blurred, ghost. We would never seen a city from a camera that is in the sky. Second problem with this photo, I show you another one from the sky, same thing, Rome, and this one from Constantinople, 1843, from the sky, trees completely stopped, no wind, no nothing, and they are taken from up above. Very impressive study done by Starik in the Attic. He points out that to develop the photos in 1840s, it was needed boiling mercury. The idea that they brought boiling mercury on a Zeppelin, on a balloon full of inflammable gases, it's a joke. The picture in those times, the photos had to be developed on the spot because otherwise the picture was damaged. So to have this picture done, you have to have a balloon that is completely still for 16 minutes. You take the picture, then you have to put it in boiling mercury for the image to stay stick on the paper. How do they boil mercury on a balloon full of inflammable gases, and how they manage to keep a balloon still for 16 minutes to take this picture?
Now we know where all the people were. They were boiling the mercury.
They were boiling mercury. This one, same anomaly. Budapest, this one is 57, 59, sorry if I'm not mistaken. And again, road completely empty, and it is taken from the sky. There is no doubt. I visited Budapest several times. This picture is from up above. The Duna River should be packed of barges and boats. There's nobody, nothing to be seen, and it is taken from the sky. The balloon would be moving, and this city would be completely blurred. We could not be able to see it. Same Budapest, nobody. Budapest again. Look at the how majestic is this city. There is absolutely nobody. Windows completely closed, and blah blah blah. Back to the picture of Sir Philippe. And now we can, Sir Adrian, we can exit the full screen and we can discuss these anomalies.
Yes, for sure, because we see a lot of weird things. Yeah, I think we need an explanation. Can we start with Sir Philippe? Okay.
Well, I think everything was perfectly presented. So there's some type of anomalies and some sort of photo shooting, staged pictures, right? So sometimes you see people just posing, right, on these ancient pictures of 19th century. And so they probably wasted a lot of time standing there, as what the official history of photograph and exposure tells us. So they extended for several minutes and so on, not even moving, and blah blah blah. But on different pictures from different periods, you see that this explanation kind of is not working at all, as David mentioned. So I agree with him on everything except that he didn't say much on windows, but it was clear on most of the footage that he was showing that windows not only closed, but sometimes they are just dark holes in the windows. So the glass would be reflecting the light, and it wasn't. Why is that? Because the window is not there, so the glass is not there. How do you have this huge cities with no, sometimes with no glass in the windows, right? So that kind of shows that probably not much people were living there, and nobody was actually plugging those new windows in. And it wasn't necessary for this photo shoot because it was so far away and nobody could probably visualize it or research that for sure if they were watching this as a report, right? What this photo shoot could be actually a report of a reset team of like claiming the city is ready for new population to be brought in. And I think the orphan thing is connected to that for the future population, because both in these cases, like David was showing, like 20 years pass and the whole city is packed with people. And you see some books also about this on Moscow, for example, by Gilerovsky. He was a guy who was living in that period in 1870s, 1890s, all the way to Bolsheviks. He was one of the Bolsheviks' favorite writers, by the way. But he wrote only one good book. It's called Moscow and Moscovites. And he is talking about all these places of Moscow, these districts of Moscow, how they were populated, by whom, and so on. And there was a huge area which was called Hitrovka, and basically you could disappear there. If you come there with money, you probably will disappear. And there were a bunch of places like this in Moscow, including the main area close to Kremlin, which was called the trading rows, big galleries. And so we had underground facilities there, which were clearly visible during excavation in the 70s and 80s, when they were creating this huge underground mall in this area. So the basin's so big, so they created an underground 4-story mall in this area. So understand the level of excavation. And the Kremlin itself has like several underground floors, up to 10 floors. I had a footage of people going down as deep as 7 floors. And after that, the door was closed and they didn't risk to go further. So it's a huge area of excavation. It's a historical site, and it has a bunch of evidence, both photographic and written in the books, about these anomalies, that you can basically disappear there with money. And the criminals were using these undergrounds to bring these people in. They were using pretty girls or whatever, or maybe card games, like secret clubs of playing cards and so on. There's plenty of reasons how the people could lose their money in the Moscow. But Moscow was living. It wasn't a capital, because St. Petersburg was capital at that time. And so Moscow was on the way to St. Petersburg. From whole Russian elite people were leaving their money in Moscow and were dying there.
Yeah. Well, I have just a thing to say before we go on. Francesco, I think you have to go because he's going to work, right, Francesco?
Yes, Adri. I'm sorry, David and Philip, but work is calling.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Francesco. We will
Thank you
talk
to you.
on the
Have a
telephone.
nice day.
Bye.
Bye.
Sure. I have also another question for you guys. I think we can split this interview in 2 parts. What do you think about? Because I think we have still a lot of things to say, no, David? Wait a moment. Okay.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
At this point, why we don't leave it here? That we have been through so much, and we do another one, because I have another 2 slide, more or less the same, and our other topic that I would like to discuss with Sir Philippe, because it is fantastic to have the person that start all of this and is telling us his opinion. So I didn't miss no 1 second of what Sir Philippe told us, and if we continue going, is starting to be too much for everybody. Why we don't do part 2?
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's okay. I don't know if Phil is okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
So
Perfect.
let's do one thing. We leave it here. We leave it here like this, and we continue next time.
We can do it also next week if you want. Same day, same hour. What do you think about it?
Can.
Maybe
Okay.
anyway we can rest in contact by email and other stuff. But anyway, for now I will fix the point on the next week, same day, same hour. Okay.
Okay. Would you like me to, before leaving, to present the last thing, and basically when I finish the slide, just put the music and we finish. If you prefer.
Okay.
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 So, Sir Philippe, see you next week. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you so much for sharing all of this knowledge. You are
No problem.
for me, you are a legend, Sir Philippe.
Thank you very
Wake up.
much.
So let's share the screen, and what I wanted to do is give an undeniable evidence that something indeed took place at the beginning of 1800. Can you hear me? Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Yes, totally perfect.
Okay, so this one is a picture of a bog. I hope that you know what a bog is. Basically a shallow lake, more or less, packed of mud, let's say. These are the images showing us that they are indeed packed of mud, are shallow lake, full of mud. Some have more water, some have less water. But they are not really swamp. They are shallow lakes. This is how they are telling us how they form. Now I'm going to read you straight what they are telling us. There is the period that it takes for this to form. Basically, before it's a lake at the beginning, and thousand and thousand of years pass by, and it become a bog. And the last stage is basically this hole full of mud, where a hill basically grow on top with thousand and thousand of years. This again, another book explaining us exactly the same. So they all went to school with the same teacher. Another book explaining us exactly the same phenomenon. This is how they are telling us that they are formed. Lake, half lake, mud. This is, now I'm going to show you a bog in Estonia, in Latvia, excuse me. And here, this is what officially they are telling us. The bogs in Latvia, they appeared 10,000 years ago. So it takes 10,000 years for that phenomenon to take place. The country of Finland is called Suomi. The word suo means swamp. So Suomi, Suoma, mean swampland. In fact, Finland is the country in the world that have most swamp related to its surface. It's basically a massive swamp, Finland. This is an article that Mira found about bogs in Finland. They are telling us that clearly, it is clearly written that in 1800, the maps show this particular bog was a lake. And then it became a bog like is in our days. So you see that the lie already, we caught the lie straight by the news. Because here they're telling us, I just read you that phenomenon in Latvia take 10,000 of years to form, while here in Finland they are telling us that this bog have formed since the 1800. Okay. This one is a map of Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. The area that we're gonna research is this one, this point here. Now we're gonna zoom in. This is a picture of those areas. You can see Tartaria, clearly written, bunches of people, and very highly populated areas compared to what history is telling us. This one is that area that I just showed you on the map. And this is the top of that peninsula. As you can see, is a bog, a very strange one. It looked like some kind of a brush mark. And this one is a bog, there is no doubt. Can you see how it looks like brush? Very, very peculiar formation. Look at it. It's like if somebody passed a brush there. You can clearly see it. Very, very peculiar. So these are the maps showing us that particular area. As you can see here, this is the area that I'm showing you. There is this massive bog here on this map. There's nothing, 1700. This one is another map, same area, 1700, no bog. Another one, 1700, no bog. Another one, 1752. I remember exactly the date of this one, 1752. There is no bog. This one is, I found this one that is particularly of that area. As you can see, there is no bog. Another one, same, zooming more and more the maps into that area, no bog. But this one is another map of Latvia, which is showing us that they knew about swamp, what they were, because that one is the word for swamp. And this swamp is much, much smaller than the bog that I'm presenting you on the top of the peninsula. So there is no doubt that they knew how to put a swamp on a map. Simply, it's not there, that map, that swamp. As we can see, this one is an image of our days. Look at the coastline, for example. This one is our bog. This, as you can see, the coastline is clearly a straight line, white sand. I've been up and down that coastline several times with Mira. It's exactly like you see it, no doubt. This is the other side of the peninsula. And this is how the coastline looks like in 1700. As you can see, it's all totally broken peninsula and bays, while in our days is a totally straight white sand beach. So something already deeply wrong have transformed the landscape. Again, you can see the coastline. Look at it, it's completely broken. And this is the today image. So this one is the bog. Basically, Mira and I, we went there to study it when we discovered that it is very peculiar. So we went straight there and we went to look at it. This is what happened if you zoom into the bog. Lines everywhere. Look at them. This is on top of the bog. Look at it. Bog, you go close, lines everywhere. Okay, look at it. Huh. Look at it. So when we saw this, Mira and I, we decided to go visit the bog. Basically, this is just staggering. Remember that this is a muddy swamp, full packed of water. I cannot walk on top. This one are images, personal images that I took with Mira. We are almost at the edge of the bog. In this picture, you can see the large bog in front of us. This is the moment where I gave up. I couldn't continue because the soil is soaked with water. I couldn't continue. It's starting already here, the swamp. So imagine on the swamp where those lines are there, it is obviously water. You can't walk, it's mud. This is the soil picture that I took before. This is the moment when I give up. I couldn't continue. As you can see, the soil is soaked with water. These are the picture that I took just before giving up, almost at the edge of the bog. As you can see, there are lines cut in the forest in both sides. There is no doubt. This is on the edge of the bog. And as you can see, if the lines are there on the edge of the bogs, I guess also the lines on top of the bog are there. And how did they made it? If I cannot walk on the bog without burying myself like a Roman bat in England, how did the bulldozer manage to print those enormous grid? This one is an image that I found of Venezuela. As you can see, same exact formation. Look at it. It's as well on the right next to the seashore. You can see it. Same thing.
Venezuela is full of oil sands, so-called. Most of their oil is deposited in their sands, which are close to the shore. So what you see actually is oil sands.
Very, very interesting. So also this one could be related. So this one is an image of United States, the east of United States. This is the area that I'm going to zoom now into it. As we can see, we have the same thing here, really massive, but we have this brush mark basically that it goes on and on. It is massive, and it really does look like the one in Curlandia, the one that I just showed you. What is interesting about this particular area of United States is that under this formation, this peculiar formation, is the area of the earthquake of 1811-1812, the New Madrid fault line that create liquefaction and basically demolished a large area of United States. These are the Carolina bays. Basically, this shallow lake, very, very similar to the bog that I'm showing you in Curlandia, are exactly on the side of that peculiar formation, that the strange brush mark here. The shallow lake, very similar to the bogs that I'm presenting you, are exactly beside of it. So you see the similarity. We have this brush mark and the bog in Latvia, and we have the brush mark and this Carolina Bays shallow lake, exactly same characteristic in United States. And in this case, this shallow lake and that particular figure are related to earthquake, to liquefaction. These one are lines that are coming out from beneath the forest of the Carolina, around the Carolina Bays. So we can see lines also there are coming out from the forest. This one is another of this brush mark in Burma. And these are bogs here in Finland. So what they have been finding in these bogs here in Finland are these bog bodies, plenty. And they have found them devastated, basically organ broken and full of wounds. It is, they say that are strange ritualistic cuts and wounds, these bodies. And entire soldiers army have been discovered, hundreds and hundreds of them in Denmark, in Sweden, in Estonia, and here in Finland. And very interesting is that they have been found with all the bones broken and with remains of slaughtered animals. If we go check how they have been found the mammoth, we're gonna find exactly the same description. They are into mud and with all of the bones crushed, the organ inside crushed, and they are found, in this black earth kind of soil, mud. This one is an article about Finland. They found hundreds of bodies inside one of this bog, which I just prove you that they are not on the maps until 1800. So they appear on map, looks like at the beginning of 1800, and all of these bodies are dug out. The thing about these bodies, here there is an article that is clearly telling us that the only evidence that we have that this particular bog have bodies inside, bones, is from 1674, they are telling us, and it's just a letter from Alftanus, which probably was a dude that was coming to school with me. Because if we take off this letter from my brother Alftanus, the only studies that have been performed on this bog are 1886, 1912, 1982 to 84. So we see that is end of 1800 when this bog has been studied, not in 1600. Here again, they are telling us the 100 bodies, all broken, full of every kind of jewelry and that nobody has been stealing, but the official narrative is telling us that those bodies were thrown inside the bog, but they have all of their possession with them. So you would expect that if somebody win a war and is going to steal the weapon, for example, from the enemies, but no, they find them with all of their weapon and all of their this is another finding in Estonia, in a bog. A woman was discovered with jacket, wool skirt, gloves, and in theory there was a coin inside this bog close to her hand magically, and the coin was from 1667. So basically they are trying to push back this bog, the story of this bog, to 1600 again, also in Estonia. It's not a coincidence. But if we go check at the founding that are coming from that particular bog, we can see that they are describing everything that has been found: the brooch, the clothes of the woman, the skirt, the textile, the glove, everything that has been described has been found and is in this particular report, another piece of textile. Then now we're going to show you this famous coin. There is no coin. Okay, if someone can find me that a 1661 coin, it doesn't exist. So again, we can see that these bodies are not from any 1600, but as the map are showing us, this bog have formed at the beginning of 1800. This one is a very interesting story about a book found in a bog in Ireland. They are telling us that this book was buried for 1,200 years, and when they dug it out, it was still legible. Yep. 1,000 years inside of a muddy swamp, and this book was still legible in the world of Fantasylandia where these people live. And this one, these are mud volcanoes. As you can see, when the activity of the mud volcanoes is slowing down, is starting to be full of water and forming a elliptical depression. And I'm speculating here that soon this mud volcano will be shot and this hole will be full of mud. This is another one in Alaska. As we can see, clearly same thing. We have a shallow lake, basically, that is forming. There's water, exactly like we see in the description, and then they become packed of mud. And this one, I think that is this event that took place at the beginning of 1800. Those bodies, they were not thrown inside those bogs, but those bogs, for some reason, they form, and those bodies got trapped in them. This is what I'm speculating here. So, Sir Philippe, thank you again for this beautiful afternoon. And Sir Adrian, thank you again for making it possible. Wait.
Thanks to you, David.
And
great presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So next week we can continue talking about adding a couple of more detail if you want.
All right.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Philippe.
Thank you, Sir Philippe. Have a beautiful evening.
Yeah. See you later, guys. Bye.
Bye, Adrian. Bye.
Ciao.